Welcome to Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing. What if you could learn from experienced real estate investors, find out what got them to where they are now, get insight into their daily habits, and take these insights to inspire your own growth? Each week, Jonathan Green shares an in-depth look at the mindful approach to real estate investing. Jonathan is a lifelong real estate investor, advisor, and coach, as well as the founder and team leader of Streamlined Properties. Whether you're looking to start from scratch, get to the next level, or just for a straightforward and honest approach to real estate investing, Jonathan seeks to provide a free mentorship program you can take with you anywhere. Now, here's Jonathan.
We're back with another episode of Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing. Thank you for being here. I honestly really appreciate every single person who listens to this podcast. I really do. I have a great show for you this week. Before we get there, I just want to remind you that we have 10-minute clips of each episode on my YouTube channel. That's Jonathan Green RE. You can see who we are there, catch a little bit, the highlights of the conversation, listen to the whole episode before or after. It's just a good way to really see us and get it that way. So this week, my guest is Todd Pigott of the ZINC companies. We're going to talk about expanding and diversifying investment opportunities because he's gone into several different businesses in real estate, and it all started from almost nothing. Let's do this. This is episode 123 of Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing with my guest, Todd Pigott. Todd is the principal and managing member of the ZINC companies. These are wide and varied in the real estate space. ZINC Investing, which we'll go over, an income fund with a sub-REIT, ZINC Financial, private money lender, and also ZINC Realty, one of the largest rehabbers in the state of California. Todd, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for making some time for me today. I'm really happy to be here and excited to meet your guests.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk to you and get your background and then how you got into all of these different parts of real estate. But I always like to start here. When you were younger, was real estate something that you were interested in?
Yeah, it was. Originally born in Southern California, raised in Southern California, moved to Fresno, which is right in the center of California, probably when I was 13 or 14. And I knew something relatively quickly in high school, and that was that I really enjoyed the outdoors. I'm a water polo swimmer player, mountain biker, road biker, hiker, kayaker, stuff like this. So what I liked about real estate is that you get kind of the best of both worlds. I mean, this is at a very young age in high school, right? I liked being outside. I liked being in the construction element. I liked driving around and looking at properties, as well as some office attributes too. I didn't want to be an insurance salesman. I didn't want to own a bar or a car lot. That just didn't work for me. So at a very young age, I realized that I liked the construction or real estate aspect. You know, it kind of fit my personality.
Yeah, and that's unique because I think in high school, I've talked to a lot of people. None of us really learned. I learned real estate from my dad. So at a very young age, I was getting that education. But I don't remember even it being discussed in high school and not amongst my friends either. So do you think it was part just because you were always outdoors? And if you're outdoors a lot in California, you're looking at houses all the time. Just there's real estate. It's right there.
I was outside and I just enjoyed the construction aspect. I would say more the construction aspect than I was per se the real estate aspect. Yeah. When I used to go play water polo at Fresno State, I would typically go drive new homes that were under construction. And it was super fascinating to me. I'm outside watching things being built. And so that's where I really genuinely got my first inkling of interest to be in this industry.
Yeah. Did you look at it at that time as a way into like the greater space of real estate? I mean, monetizing it, or was it just, hey, this stuff looks awesome, I got to figure out a way to get in?
Well, I kind of took a different turn, if I could share that with you.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So during my college years, my parents ended up divorced, and I ended up with my mother, and we ended up in a very, very a poor situation. Ended up on welfare and really, really poor. So what happened is that, TV dinners, no vacations, utilities shut off, couldn't get gas into the car. It was a very difficult period in my life. So what happened was I was working at that time for a sporting goods store, and I made $261 an hour after taxes. I had just enrolled in Fresno State in their construction management real estate program. I really wanted to do that. And I was playing water polo at that time, and so I had no money. I had $17 to my name, and the sporting goods store called me. And at that time, at the sporting goods store, you had to wear a shirt and a tie. I know that sounds really odd, but at that time, it's a very, very well-known sporting goods company throughout California. And so the manager called me and said, "Hey, Todd, you're wearing the same shirt and the same tie every day. You need to buy more clothes." It says, "Martine, I make $261 an hour after taxes." So I politely quit. And he says, "Hey, we're actually very, very professional, very nice." But he says, "Hey, we're actually overstaffed right now. If you want to, finish out the day, that'd be fine." I finished out the day and I went and sat in my 1972 Ford Courier pickup truck in the parking lot that backfired every time I shifted to fourth gear. I had $17, and here I was enrolled in Fresno State playing water polo. I had no money, no education. I knew I liked the outdoors, but I couldn't pay the tuition and books bill. So I called Fresno State. I withdrew. About 4 weeks later, I got a call from my counselor and says, "Hey, we found you a scholarship." I had about a 3.85 out of Clovis High School. I re-enrolled in Fresno State. I got my first year's tuition and books covered, continued on with water polo, but I was still broke. And so what happened was water polo ended every night with Harold Zane, the coach at that time, at either 5, 6, 7, or 8. He always staggered it. I needed,
yeah. I got to keep you on your toes.
I had to keep me on my toes. So here I am broke. I quit the only job I had at $261 an hour after taxes. I have this scholarship and I have $17 to my name. And water polo ended at various times throughout the evening. So what I did is I got to make a living, but I need to do something that's on my own hours. And so what happened is I went home and I got my mom's vacuum cleaner and I started knocking on doors to clean buildings, because that's something I could do on my own time after water polo, whether it's 5, 6, 7, or 8. Whatever time I got out of practice, I could go clean a building. So I knocked on doors, and I got my first client at $63, and I got my second client, Pat Rogers and Associates, for $63. My third client was Spano Enterprises at $210 a month. By my 6th month in business, I had $810 in reoccurring revenue, and I could do this after water polo.
Yeah.
Well, I took that company and I built it up over 17 years. I did not enjoy it. I did facilities maintenance. I did not enjoy it. I really liked construction.
Yeah.
I really liked real estate. But I took that company from that beginning period and I built it up over to about a 500 employee company over 3 states. We did all the Targets, we did all the Mervyn's, PetSmart, Smart and Finals, you name it, we did it. And I was in an automobile accident, and I ended up graduating from Fresno State with my degree in construction and real estate. But I stayed with my previous company. I built that up over 17 years, and I sold it. And I sold it because I was in an auto accident. I never enjoyed that line of work. And I said, I need to do what I want to do, which I'm really passionate about, which is real estate and construction. So I sold that company to a private equity firm, and I took that money and I rolled it into ZINC at that time. That year was about 2005, 2006. I loved construction. I loved real estate. I sold the company after 17 years of building that to 500 employees. And so then what I started to do is I started to buy multifamily and fix it up, rent roll it, and then go to the next one. And so I did this. And then I started getting into distressed properties. My first property was a burned house. And I bought that and I fixed it up. And then I sold it and I made some money. I made like $30,000. So here I am 17 years later, got my degree, sold my company, and I started this company called ZINC. And so I started rehabbing properties. Loved it. I still love it. To this day, we've fixed and flipped about $100 million, hundreds and hundreds of homes. We buy distressed assets, we rehab them, and then we resell them for a profit. But it goes a little bit farther than that. That's ZINC Realty. Then we did ZINC Financial. And ZINC Financial is our lending arm. We loan money to investors who buy distressed properties, rehabilitate them, and then resell them. We're one of the largest lenders in the state. We've done over $1 billion of this. So we're a lender now in distressed asset real estate, as well as our own investment in real estate, meaning we fix and flip and we loan to fix and flippers. And so we're very busy on both fronts. But then what happened next is friends and family started coming to me and saying, "Hey, Todd, we want to invest with you. We like this. It's super successful. You've done $1 billion, virtually no losses." And so then I started the ZINC Income Fund, which is a mortgage fund. It's a debt fund. It's registered by the SEC. It's open to accredited investors. And so they put their money in there, and then we loan that out on first position loans to our borrowers in ZINC Financial. So it's kind of I really have 3 entities now: ZINC Realty, where we buy, fix, and rehab and flip.
Yeah.
And then we have our ZINC
running,
Financial.
running together too. I mean,
they're all connected. They're all kind of connected. So the fund is doing well. The fund is doing very well. No losses. Millions of dollars in it, and our investors earn 8 to 9%, and then they get a 20% tax deduction on the earnings because we have a sub REIT. So our investors win. Our investors win because they get exceptionally good security, first position, entry-level homes, good FICO borrowers. Average FICO is a 710, and these are distressed properties that are going to be rehabbed, value add, that are going to be rehabbed and fixed in the neighborhood. So our investors win.
Yeah.
Then our borrowers win because they bought a property, they fixed it up, they sold it, they made some money. And then, of course, the neighborhood wins, the community wins, because what was a drug house or a vacant house or a boarded up house with Christmas lights on the front of it in the middle of June with a engine in the front yard, that house has now been turned into a beautiful rehabbed house. And so the neighborhood wins, the borrower wins because they invested in that property. My investor wins, and of course, we make a little bit of money on the side too. So that's kind of the three entities and how it all started, and kind of where I'm at today.
Yeah, it's interesting though. I mean, if you go back and look at your first business though, for 17 years, it was still inside of real estate. So you're doing this commercial cleaning, but it's all inside real estate. So you're kind of prepping yourself for what could be longer term. Even though you got into fix and flip, commercial is obviously a large scale asset. So you're always looking at real estate the whole time. Was that something that you thought about at the time, or were you just head down, let me get this company going, grow the company? And it's like, wait, that we were in all buildings the whole time.
We were in all buildings. We did retail, we did commercial, we did exterior graffiti removal, exterior pressure washing, day porter services, parking lot sweeping, parking lot striping, street sweeping. We did everything, lighting, everything with a commercial or retail facility. So it was a business that I didn't enjoy, and I didn't enjoy it because it was 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. It was very, very tough. But it was real estate. It was real estate and a form of property management per se. And so I was in the commercial and the retail sector and taking care of all those properties. And was the thought process at that time I wanted to do that? No, my thought process was, I'm on welfare. I'm broke. I have $17. I just quit my job. I don't even have an education. What am I going to do? So by default, I was doing that because it's something I could do in my own time after water polo. That's how it really started. But the nature of it is I ended up taking care of buildings, retail, malls, shopping centers, strip malls, all that kind of stuff we did. But my real passion, and I really like what I do, is real estate, is investing in real estate and lending in real estate, and providing value to my investors who invest alongside me in real estate for a fair return. And so I just really enjoy this aspect. I do know this, that I kind of focus on what I do best, not necessarily other asset classes. So I don't look at agriculture or car washes or funeral homes. I don't do those things. We're very, very specific in investor rehab financing. We've done exceptionally well with that. We know it very well. I'm a licensed contractor, licensed broker, and a licensed lender. And so we're very good at being able to distinguish this property is bought for $200. You're going to spend $40,000 on it, and the after repaired value is going to be $325. It's a value add. So we're very good in that. So I love real estate, but I'm not a jack of all trades. I stay very, very focused in the niche that we've kind of perfected, and that's just kind of what we drive home.
Yeah, I mean, and this is a large scale fix and flip for you as ZINC in that aspect, but you're also helping the brand new investor who can come in and get financing, correct, through the private money?
Absolutely. We've obviously done a lot of this, and so we do have some beginners that come to us. They've saved up some money, they have a little bit of money. As a matter of fact, our actual borrower is typically a real estate investor, contractor, some real estate broker. They have exposure, but they're not professional where they do this all over. They do several a year.
Yeah.
They have exposure to the industry. They're typically at the beginner or intermediate level. They do 4 to 6 a year. They have some money and they have good credit. You have to put in some money. So they have some money and they also have good credit. So yeah, we do help a lot of these entry-level people that are just getting started. And there's never a better time to start than today. So yeah, a lot of these newbies, we help them along the way by helping them understand the costs of rehab, the control fund disbursements, and what they can expect on the back end. So yes, a lot of our beginning investors come to us for that help.
Yeah, don't you think that, one of the biggest problems for newer investors is just that repair estimate. They really have no idea. So they could get a contractor may inflate it if they're not working together or know each other. But I feel like that's a very tough part. So if they can get any extra leverage in that area, it's definitely going to help them. Someone brand new to a burned out house is going to think it's a lot easier than it is to reconstruct, and they just don't know what they don't know.
One of the toughest aspects of my business. This is one of the toughest things. We've done a lot of flipping, hundreds, and we've done a lot of lending, thousands. So, but one of the toughest parts of my business is my business and what I do is glorified. It's the number one selling book on Amazon, How to Flip and Grow Rich. Everybody wants to do it. I always say every kid wants to be an NFL player, a spaceman, or flip and grow rich. That's the three things they want to do. And so I get calls all the time from these new people that want to get into the space because they make TV shows out of it.
Lots of them.
Lots of TV shows out of it. There's lots of glamorous with this. Now, is there money in this? Absolutely. Absolutely. There's good money in real estate. I do very, very well. But I will tell you the hardest aspect is it's been glorified. Books on Amazon, the TV shows. I call it the balloons and confetti syndrome. It's glorified with balloons and confetti. So what happens is these investors come to us. They're all excited. They're all excited. They bought the book. They bought the CDs. They bought the balloons and confetti syndrome. And here's the problem. It's not balloons and confetti. This is a hard business. You have to know what you're doing. It has an element of risk, and it's very difficult. There's only 3 guaranteed outcomes for every single parcel of property you buy. 3 outcomes. You bought that junky property, and you're going to fix it. Only 3 things I can guarantee. It's going to cost more than you think.
Yep.
It's going to take longer than you think, and it's going to be a lot more hassle than you think. So these people come in very excited with no war wounds. You know, they got their budget, they've got their property, they're all excited, and we have to dial them back. You know, that budget's not realistic, and the property you're buying is too high. And by the way, by the time you compute all of the carry costs, selling costs, your $200 water heater is really $850. We deflate their balloon, and then they get mad and they're upset because they're excited. They drank the Kool-Aid at these seminars and they're excited. So this is hard because they're excited and they want to get going. But the real truth is they have a transaction that's just not going to work. And so we have to explain it to them or not do it. The last thing I want to do is put somebody in harm's way, even though, you know, we're going to get paid one way or the other, but they're not. And so to answer your question, yes, these people come that are more novice or more entry level. They haven't done it. They're super excited and they want to go do it, but they don't know the other half of this industry, which there is risk and there is hassle. And the people don't show up to the job and they don't do it right. And the pest report doesn't clear when you're in a closed escrow. And then you already paid the guy. And now you can't find him and his cell phone doesn't ring. You know, all these things are part of this industry. And so to your point, that is absolutely, we have to validate all that. We have to validate everything. Every single thing we have to validate. What you bought it for, what you're going to put in the property, what's the value add, what's the after repaired value. And then we have to pay, I haven't even talked about this, pay close attention to trends, which I map out, which I can talk about if you want me to get into it, the trends of that specific area, because they'll never understand that. They're just excited and ready to go. But we have to watch the trends. That's something outside their control, outside our control. And so we map that across the country, and I could share that with you at some point. But to your point, yeah, we have to validate all that information and sometimes bring them bad news that this is not a good transaction for this reason. And so we want to make sure they're successful and that we're successful.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, I think in the lending area, you want repeat customers because they're reliable. You know what to expect of them. They know what to expect of you. So once you get them through a few, then they understand the system. They start to understand their costs better. But that, you know, like you said, you'd still make money on that first time borrow, but the same as picking the wrong house, it's just going to be more of a pain. You don't really want to have to foreclose on assets unless you have to, because that's a worst case scenario. You know, you'd rather just everybody get through it. Everybody makes money, everybody's happy, but if you pick the wrong person, they just may not know.
We pick the wrong person or we pick the wrong property. The last thing we want to do, and we have some of these now. The last thing we want to do, absolute last, is foreclose on that property and wipe you out and wipe out your down payment. We have one in Oakland, California right now. This person put in $200,000 and they're sideways. And that's the absolute last thing we want to do is it's not enjoyable. You know, we have to foreclose and take your money and take your property. And that's not a situation that we want to put you in. And we don't want to be part of that either. Even though we're going to get paid, it doesn't matter. I have 3 kids. I have a wife and a dog and a cat. And I have to wake up every day and see them. And I want to do the right thing by all sides. And by that, we want to make sure you're successful. We do not want to see that type of outcome. That's $200,000. This person worked their whole life for that. Now they're in trouble. We want to try to prevent that at all costs before getting to that point.
Yeah, and like you said, a lot of that's in the beginning, and saying no is part of just trying to provide better service. This isn't going to work for you. The numbers are all wrong. Like you said, people get super excited. They finally found a property. California is a very difficult investment market overall. The prices just comparative between states is very high. There's
Very
certainly
high.
areas that are lower price, but not really. I mean, the further you go, it's just a different market. So like you said, someone's putting in a lot more than someone who's, trying to become a flipper in Arkansas because the price points are different. So they have more
Price
on the line just for one house.
Price points are different. What I call the velocity is different. The absorption rates are different. And so we pay very close attention to those trends across the state. By state, we map them. We get all of our data from the General Services Administration, the National Association of Realtors. So we don't get it from tabloids, the internet, or a variety of other sources. We get it straight from the source. We pay for it. It's a lot of money. And then we extract that data so that we understand, have a better grip on the absorption rates, velocity of the house that you're flipping in that area. Because what might seem like this is another area people get into trouble. That house is really cheap, and I'm going to fix it up and sell it. It's really cheap because it's in a geographical location that nobody wants to live.
Right.
And you're putting in new lumber and new appliances into a house that simply is not going to get a value add because that specific area is not prone to appreciation. The velocity and the absorption rate there is exceptionally poor.
Yeah.
We have that on a lot of the inner parts of the country, the centralized portion of the country. Your Ohio's, your Detroit's, your Kansas's. Some of those can be very, very, very dicey. So that's another area where people can get into trouble is they think they got a good deal. Those really, really inexpensive homes, that's actually the worst area to try to flip in. When that thing is 20 grand or 40 grand, we don't like those loans.
Yeah.
The value add to that is very difficult to get out of. They're at that price range for a reason. The demand there is exceptionally low. For instance, San Jose, California, the average price point is 1.5 million. I can move a 1.5 million and so can that borrower in San Jose in 7 to 8 days. But that $89,000 house in Dayton, Ohio might sit there for half a year. So that's another area where people can be traumatized by simple geographical location. So it's something to be very, very aware of. I call it absorption and velocity. What's the absorption rate in that area, and what's the velocity for which properties are moving, and what's the speed for which they're moving?
Yeah, and that data is available. It's the absorption rate is important. It's how many months something's going to stay on the market. And I think when you're looking at it, that can change. So you have to be watching it because maybe it changed from 3 months ago to now, and now it's much higher. So you're looking at 6 months on the market instead, and you're only accounting for 3 months of costs. Including, like we said, the flip time, which they think is 3 months and is going to be 6 months, which means it's going to be 12 months to sale. And then if they're on a 1-year cap for the loan, then they're going to be getting in some trouble at that point.
They're going to be getting in some trouble. The longer the thing sits, the more you got property taxes rolling, you got insurance rolling, water, garbage, trash service rolling, a lot of things rolling. So the longer that sits, the deeper your hole becomes. So we have to take special precaution. Even myself, when I do flips, what's that area? Is there demand for that area? And is the liquidity available on the secondary market to provide loans for that area where people want to buy in that area? So these are all things to consider that we map. We do our data every 90 days. We get a report from the GSA. We map all that. And then we get a report from the NAR. We map it all out to make sure that we're, being disciplined and careful. I have investors in the ZINC Income Fund. These people put their money in there. We have no losses. I want to keep it that way. And my money's in there. So I'm fully vested. So when we do that property with that borrower for that bridge loan or that transitional loan that they're going to add value into, say, we want to make sure it's in a safe area. And so that's why we chart those geographical trends. Buying the property at the right price is one part of it. Having a good operator is a part of it, and having obviously a good contractor, and then selling it's another part of it. All those are wonderful. But if you're in the wrong location that has metrics and attributes that are not flowing your direction, there's nothing you can do about it. There's nothing you can do about it. You're in trouble.
I think we've seen that even on a smaller scale. You can even take what someone would consider a good neighborhood, but they buy, a corner lot next to a water facility or something and think that it's going to sell for the same thing. These are things they're just thinking, well, it looks like a good deal. Well, it looks like a good deal in a hot market because it's not a good deal. I mean, it only looks like one because it just can't be, or else all the other investors would have already bought it.
Hey, it's Jonathan, just taking a brief break from this episode to talk to you about Royal Legal Solutions. I had Scott Royal Smith on episode 92 of the podcast. You can go back and check that one out after you finish this episode. And he opened my eyes to how much protection I was losing every year that I didn't activate, build a team, and protect my assets. You can get information about Royal Legal Solutions by using my link at bit.ly/Zen Royal. And bit.ly is bit.ly/Zen Royal. You'll find a lot there. You'll find a 30-minute video to watch with Scott. And I can guarantee you what you hear on the podcast is exactly what you're going to hear in that video. So give it a try. I'm down the rabbit hole right with you. Let's get back to the show.
We have a strict rule, 2 minutes or less. 2 minutes or less on every single scenario. We Google map the area. The elevation of that house cannot change. So we look at the elevation and we look at the geographical location. We call it my curbs and gutter theory. What do you mean by that, Todd? And I speak on this topic at conferences. The curb and gutter theory is this. Does it have a curb? Does it have a gutter? Is there a McDonald's nearby? Is it in a neighborhood that is resembling of the other houses nearby? Is there a train tracks next door? Is there an industrial building next door? All those things are very, very undesirable. So we look for properties that are below the median cost of housing, where the geographical area is exceptionally consistent for the property that we're talking about. So I call it my curbs and gutter theory, which is really silly. Is there a curb? Is there a gutter? Is there a street? I don't want a dirt road. We don't do rural. We don't do cabins. We don't do desert. We don't do properties that are next to train tracks, next to a water tower, next to an industrial building. The list goes on and on. We want something that is curbs and gutters. Curb, gutter, Starbucks down the street, a McDonald's down the street, consistent and conforming to the neighborhood, as well as the elevation, which is also just important because you can't fix that. Talking about a gable roof, the roof sight line, pop outs on the front, is there stucco, is there comes some brick, whatever. You want to make sure the elevation, or which is called the frontal view for some of your viewers who might not know what that is, but the elevation is the frontal view of the property. And you want to make sure that the pop outs, the roof line, the bricks and the stucco, and how the front of it is consistent with the neighborhood. If you have a 1965 house that has an adobe front, that somehow has been there for a long time, and all the other houses around there are newer construction, and they're stucco and brick, your adobe is not consistent. It's not going to command the price of the comps surrounding it, and you can't fix that. I can fix everything on the inside of the house. I can fix everything. I cannot fix the front elevation. I'm not going to be able to fix that. So we look at the front elevation. We look at the surroundings to make sure that property is in a community for an entry-level borrower that they want to live, and that they're not next to a water tower or next to a industrial area. So these are all things that we have experience in, that we do, that protects our investors in our fund, but also protects our borrowers to make sure they're not getting into a bad deal.
Yeah. And I mean, it's just so easy to do street view. I mean, I know just from being licensed on market and working with any traditional buyers or investors, a lot of times they'll look at the photos on Zillow. They're like, oh, it looks great. And I'm like, did you look at the street view? And then you do the street view and I spin it. You always have to 360 the block. You got to walk around. You got to see what's across the street. You can see what's behind the house. I mean, it used to be when I was young, we have to drive the property, but there's so many people who are investing further away now. They have to do due diligence over the internet, but Street View is going to give you the best option. People always say, oh, well, it's going to be outdated. Okay, but you're going to be able to get an idea. It's not that outdated where you're not going to see there's a police station next door.
You're stealing my thunder. You're stealing my secret. Google Views is the Bible. So back in my earlier days when I first started, all I got was an appraisal.
Yeah.
And I got stung. I lost money on 3 properties because the appraisal looks great. There's the frontal view of the property. There's green grass.
Yeah.
I'll never forget this property on Annandale. I'll never forget this. I loaned on this property and then it goes into foreclosure, and then I drive it. Hey, Jonathan, I about lost my. I get there on Annandale. Next to it is an industrial building, and the other side of it is railroad tracks. And it's in the middle of freaking nowhere. But I can't get that from the appraisal. So in the earlier days, I used to have to drive them or
Me
rely
too.
on some. Yeah, so I had to drive them because I got stung when I didn't know where the house sits. I got stung several times. I lost money. And then what happened after that is I for a period of time, I did what's called ZINC neighborhood inspection report. I paid $85, and I would send somebody out there, and they would take pictures of the frontal view, the street view, and then the community. And then I would have them count McDonald's, shopping carts, parked cars. I would have them do an assessment of the neighborhood. It was called my neighborhood inspection report, so I could get a feel for it, from a person that went and drove it. We don't do that anymore. We just go to Google Earth. It's really not outdated. It's really not. I can tell very quickly by taking my little yellow man and sticking him on the street, go around the neighborhood. I can look at the front of the house. I can look at the neighborhood. I can look across the street, down the street. I know very quickly in 2 minutes or less from this transaction if that fits, if that house is conforming and this is a big problem for our early investors. They don't understand that. They see this house for 1,500 square feet and they look at the comps for 200 and they say it's going to be worth 300 grand. I go, but next door is a bar.
Yeah, or you're closer to a highway, then you have the highway noise. I mean, so I use Street View to get that kind of like micro view, and then I do macro on the regular map because I want to see, like you said, I want to see. It could be amenities. Maybe you find great amenities. You see the houses of worship and the schools close by. That's a plus. But then you see the highway in the back, negative. And I think these are things that we can do now. But like you said in the beginning, these newer investors are just so excited. We don't want to really burst their bubble, but also you and I both agree, I don't really want to sign on to something that I think is going to be a disaster. Because I don't want to be part of a sinking ship. So I think going in with that mindset helps you. Like we said, you're going to develop trust and then repeat customers, even if they're mad at first because they really, really want it. And then you say, did you drive it? And they go drive it and they realize, the Stop and Shop next door, the parking lot touches their parking lot. It's just not going to sell for as much.
It's not going to sell. So I look for the pluses and I will almost always fund it. If there's a school, a church, or a park like that, everybody wants that. So I'm like, oh my gosh, is there a school across the street? There's a church across the street or the park. Like it's golden, that sells that house.
Yeah, and you can leverage the school even better because you can see the schools, then you have walking proximity, then you can just go on niche and great schools and see the school ratings to know, oh wait, we're going to even get a bump above. This is an 8 to
bump
10.
Above.
Where everybody else is thinking it's 3 blocks away, like they don't see it on the map. 3 blocks away, that's what kids walk to school.
That's what kids walk to school,
especially in California.
So I look at this school. I'm like, look at this, man. There's a school across the street, and in 200 feet, there's the gate. Like any parent's going to want this house. And so, some of my biggest scores have been that. I bought a house in Fresno that couldn't sell. I bought this because it was right across the street from the school. Not only was it right across the street from the school, but it was right across the street from the entrance to the school, like to the principal's office and stuff. I said, I'm going to actually set the comps in this neighborhood because any parent's going to want to walk across the street and they're 100 feet from the office. And we had multiple offers on that property. So this is all the things you learn in real estate that create value. It's not just about the carpet.
Absolutely.
It's about the location, and amenities. I look at McDonald's, Walmart. Those are things that you want to really follow because that means that there's commerce there, and those are very desirable things.
Yeah, and I think if people are thinking diversified strategy, the house that you were just mentioning, so if I see a house that's very close to a school, I love it too. If I was advising someone, I would say that's a great rental to keep because then you can keep changing out because, for a homeowner, some are going to want that. Like, hey, I can just walk my kids to school, but then their kids are going to graduate out of that school. But like you could run in different renters who maybe couldn't afford buying a house in that neighborhood, want to get closer to the school. You're going to rent every single year, keep going up in value. So that's the kind of diversified asset that we both like about real estate is you have multiple options to do something with the property that you own. And these oddities can work as rentals sometimes when they work. You just have to buy them for less.
100% agree, especially if they're a smaller house and you've rehabbed, even if you rehabbed it to what I call rental standards.
Yeah.
So I rehab it to rental. Everything's very strict on this. Everything's going to work right. Health and safety, everything's going to be done right. But a rental property, I would rehab that to rental standards. Which is, you'd put a lesser quality kitchen sink on it, but it still works really. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But that's very good because that's desirable. It's across the street. You can rent it. You can have positive cash flow, depreciation. You've rehabbed it. You've cleared the pest. You've cleared the roof. You've fixed everything on the inside. It's a great rental property. Get a good tenant in there. They might move in 4 years when that kid moves in. Now you've gone up 3% a year in appreciation.
Yeah, exactly.
And you can stick another in there. So you're creating your wealth, and you're creating your wealth by a good strategy of some rental properties or some fix and flip properties. I think it's an excellent way, to grow your independent wealth is through this strategy. But again, you have to be careful though. It's a wonderful career that I'm in. I absolutely love it. I don't want to do anything else. But these are the things that will keep you from getting hurt: is knowing about location, frontal view, absorption rate, vacancy, and macro factors, right? Macro factors.
Yeah, I think it's like I try to tell people to have patience, and then they say, well, but I also want to take action. It's like you can do both. You're just doing things a little bit more carefully. Once you get comfortable and have the confidence to know, you should know. But I think a lot of people get that bravado, false confidence, ego is really pumping because they got to get that first property because their friends have 2 properties. And you're just going to make bad decisions, and then they're going to have to ask you like, hey, we're at 12 months. I'm only a quarter done with the renovation. It's like, we told you that it wasn't going to be 20,000. It looked like 48,000. And I think this is something we try to fix, but, we can't be in between every transaction and who they're talking to along the way.
Another thing, if I could share this with you, is kind of like a macro climate, right? I get asked all the time because obviously we do a lot of this. We do a lot of lending and a lot of investing in the SFR space, single family residential space. But this is one of my tricks. I'm going to let your readers in on it. This is what I do. I think this will make sense to you. So, macro, we have to watch for that. What's happening? I get asked this all the time. I've been in this in some way, shape, or form since 1996, which means I've navigated 4 recessions. I have. And the last one was a doozy in 07 and 08. And so I get asked by my investors, and I get asked when I go to conferences and I speak and I do a variety of these things, where's the housing market going, Todd? How do I know my money's safe with you? I've invested in the ZINC Income Fund. I'm really concerned about pricing, Todd. I'm concerned about pricing. I'm concerned about interest rates. I'm concerned about all these things. And I don't want to be in an 07 and 08, predicament again. And so one of the things I do on a macro level is I go to the Government Services Administration. I pay for a report. It's about $6,000. So what the GSA does is they track, and this makes sense if you follow me on this, they track all of the servicing statistics for every mortgage servicer in the country that services a government-backed loan.
Mm-hmm.
So that's about 79% of the servicing entities in this country are government-backed, FHA, Fannie, Freddie, whatever you want to call it. That means 79% of the servicing centers are tracked by the GSA. Now, they track everything, and it's about a 160-page report. I throw most of it away, and here's where I go. I go to the call center statistics on the servicing, and then I go straight into the call servicing metrics. They chart everything. It's really pretty fascinating. How long is the average person on hold that calls a government-backed servicing center? How many times did the call disconnect? How long do they have to wait for a person? All these things are tracked, but here's where I go. I go to what's called the stress points. What's the stress point, Todd? Okay, I go to the GSA. I buy this report, which is a big, huge report on servicing statistics on the mortgage servicers. And then I throw it all away, and then I go into the calling data. And then I throw most of that away, and I go to what's called stress points. I take every single call that comes in requesting foreclosure avoidance, pick a payment avoidance, forbearance requests, unemployment. I can't make it. So we got forbearance, we got foreclosure avoidance, we got skip a payment, reamortization. All these calls that come in, I group them together called stress points. These are people that are calling in for their loans, and they have said, I can't make a payment. I'm unemployed. I want a foreclosure avoidance. I want a loan mod. I want this. I want that. So back in 07 and 08, we had a lot of people walking on their homes. A lot of people.
Yeah.
Todd, Todd, we don't want to be stuck in that again. No, the housing market is another bubble. Well, I don't think so. And here's why. Last month, and I have the reports. I probably couldn't bring them out here and show them to you, but it's fascinating. We were at 0.04% for stress points, the lowest in 55 years. The people that are calling in that are saying, I cannot make my payment, I need to avoid foreclosure, I need a loan mod, is at a record low for 55 years. We do not have a wave of foreclosures coming. We do not have a wave of depreciation coming. Why? And this is my assessment of why. The average person moves every 8 years. It's been a long time since 2007. And what's happened here is all those government-backed loans are full doc loans. They're full doc loans. They qualified for that loan. They can make that loan payment. It's full income documentation. On top of that, we have record equity. So we have record equity. We also have record low rates. Those people have 3% loans. And then everybody that has a government-backed loan qualified with a full 30-year, fully amortized loan. So my assessment when I get these reports, and I report to my investors, we don't have a wave of foreclosures coming. I don't see it. Why? Because for there to be a foreclosure to depress prices, there has to be somebody who defaults. And for somebody to default, they don't make their payment. And before they don't make their payment, there's communication with the servicer in some way, shape, or form. And when there's communication with the servicer, before that, somebody made a call that said, I can't make my payment. And that's the first touch point of a problem is I can't make my payment. And Todd Pigott takes and sorts that data from the GSA, 0.04%, the lowest in 55 years. The simple put is people are performing on their mortgages. They're not going to give them up. They have record equity, record low interest rates, and they can afford them. And that's the big difference. I will share with you that back in 07 and 08, what's different? Is back in that period, I bought homes at auction. I went down there every day with $500,000 and I bought homes at auction. I bought foreclosures. I'd go knock on the door. The average foreclosure I bought had been refinanced 8 times. The average, that was my average. It was shocking. What happened was back then is we had to pick a payment, negative amortization loans, stated income, stated asset. So these were people that got into homes that never should have been in those homes.
Yeah.
They couldn't make the payment, and they were using them as a ready teller machine. I personally knocked on doors back in 07 and 08 on properties that I bought that were in foreclosure. I will share with you, I never, ever, and I was buying about, 20 a month. So one a day. I never, ever one time knocked on a door where somebody was in tears and they said, I lost my job or I had a medical calamity. I don't want to lose my house. I can't afford it. That was not the case. The case was these were educated people. They were smart. They were strategically defaulting. They didn't want the house. It was underwater. The interest rate was not favorable. The value was not favorable. They owed more than it was worth, and they wanted to walk on it. That was 100%. So what we had back then were people that took out stated income, stated asset loans, negative amortization loans, pick a payment loans, very bad loan product that they didn't qualify for, that they were constantly pulling money out on a cash out refi basis. My average for the homes I bought was 8. And
That's
then when the musical chairs ended, they didn't want it anymore. It no longer had value to them. I owe $380. I've refinanced it 8 times, never for rate and term, always a cash out. And I don't want it anymore. I owe $380. It's worth $300. I've pulled money out of it 8 times. What are you going to give me for cash for keys, Todd? And so that was the scenario back then. It's much different today. Today we have performing loans, 30-year amortized loans with no stress points coming into the GSA servicing centers. And so what I tell my investors, and I chart this, I spoke at San Diego on this topic. I put up some graphs on a PowerPoint. We don't have the foreclosure tsunami coming that people think is coming because they think prices are too elevated. It's not there. Now, I don't know about a year or two from now, but I can certainly say in the near future, it's just not there. The data, which is what I get, is telling me that mortgages are performing. They're simply not coming at this point. So from a desirability perspective, I feel today with my own money and my family's money and my pastor's money is all invested in this ZINC Income Fund that we loan out to investors who buy properties, fix them up and resell them. we think that we're very, very, very safe right now. Our default ratio is less than 1/8 of 1%. It's negligible. And we think that's safe because we think the collateral is safe.
Yeah.
We have a first position lien on an entry-level home. And for the most part, there's not a flood of foreclosures coming. There's a significant supply restriction across the country. We don't have enough of this. So for all intents and purposes today, contrary to what you might hear on TV, mortgage rates are up. And oh my gosh, home transactions are down 20%. Okay, they were down 20% from a period that was an unsustainable high. So we're
same as mortgage rates. The mortgage rates are up from the unsustainably low rates that we're never going to stay that way.
They were never going to stay that way.
Yeah, you made a lot of great points. And I mean, I think if you look at it, we had an appreciation windfall over the last 3 years. So of course people have baked in equity, but everyone's not taking HELOCs or trying to refinance all the time because then now they can't refinance. I mean, they can, but it would be dumb. They're at a 3%. They'd have to refinance at a 6.5. So now they have to hang on.
So our refinance rate today is around 9% of where it was. So it's dropped to nothing. It's 9%. And the only refinances that are really getting done today, which is a very tiny percentage, are those that have to for a medical, job loss, divorce.
Right.
Something else happened. Everybody has a very low rate right now. They want to stay in that home. They don't want to give it up. So we have another problem because we have shortage of housing, and
that's the inventory problem.
That's the inventory problem. We have these people that are locked, stocked, and they're going to stick 2 kids in that bedroom with the bunk bed before we move. So we have an inventory shortage, and we have an exceptional performance rate on the GSA government-backed loans. So we have 2 big things here that are actually make me very happy. Prices are going to stay elevated. There's a shortage of housing. And there's no relief in the way of foreclosures or defaults. So interest rates are up right now. We're starting to enter this period where it's no longer sticker shock. I think people are going to become used to this.
I agree.
5, 6, or 7. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And that's the new rate. And housing is I don't see it coming down at all. And I see it staying relatively sustained, which means my money and my investors' money and my borrowers that I loan to are gonna be protected by that. I don't see it coming from the data that I see.
I completely agree. And I mean, I think that, I don't watch the national news for a reason. It's not really trying to help us. I don't either. It's not that, you can know. And I've always said real estate is local, but we just had a very good conversation that is really relevant nationally. Most markets are performing extremely well. And if one's not, it's definitely one to stay away from for now, because why wouldn't it be performing? And this is part of what you do. Maybe there are a couple fringe markets that are going to turn around. But I mean, where I live in New Jersey, every market's steaming hot. It has been for 3-4 years. And we still have buyers who come to us and say, oh, do you think we can get this for, under asking? And we're like, they already have 27 offers. Like, this is just the way that the market is right now. And we're just trying to educate them, just like you are. You're trying to educate the people that come to you for help to make sure they can get the best advice. Not going to work out every time. It is a tougher market for buyers. But if you're savvy, like you said, we used to buy from the courthouse steps too. That doesn't really exist anymore. Those fun days aren't there. It just doesn't happen. So there's like a few things on Hubzu. And I mean, that's it. And then you have, regular buyers looking at those. But yeah, it's a different world. I really agree with your overall outlook. I don't think we ever were in a bubble. I don't think we're looking at one. Everyone said rates are going to go high, prices are going to go down, and that's not what happened.
I didn't see it. I predicted they were going to stay the same or better. I just pulled California 2 days ago. All but 3 counties, the average was above asking price. So with the exception of 3 counties, California, most of the nation is at or above asking price right now.
Sure.
So it's just we have about 2.5. I mean, I'm speaking globally here.
Yeah,
2.5 months of inventory, 2 months, 3 months. It's all sustainably low inventory. My rough range is 3 to 6 months. I mean, the definition of value is a able and willing seller and able and willing buyer meet to consummate the transaction in a period of 60 to 90 days. That's the value. We don't even have 60 or 90 days. We have 28 days in California. Yeah. So what I'm saying is we just have massive constriction. We don't have enough, and there's none coming in the form of defaults. Prices are going to, for what I can see, remain here or higher for the sustainable future until we get some relief with more inventory or more dense housing, multifamily, small homes. I don't know. Something's going to have to change to shake this up because we're pretty protected right now.
Yeah.
Contrary
absolutely.
to what the news says. Contrary to what the news says.
Exactly. Don't watch the news.
Don't watch the news. It's actually, they're pulling a snippet of information and exploiting that. And that's not really accurate. It's not, it's not accurate. They have the reason for doing that. It must sell. It must sell.
Right.
Because that's the only reason, because it's simply not, it's not factually correct. Housing's down 22%. Well, 22% from last month, where it was euphorically high, but we're still, 50% above the average for the last 10 years. So that's why I always get my data directly from the source and not from news channels or tabloids or, God forbid, the internet. It's just not there.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. That was great. Todd, where is the best place for people to get in touch with you? I know you have a few different companies, but which is the hub site? Where is the best place for people to find you?
Well, thank you for thinking of me for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I'm the managing member of the ZINC Income Fund. If there's investors out there that want passive, solid yield with absolute security, I invite them to ZINC Investing, ZINCinvesting.com. That's our mortgage fund REIT. We invest in loans that are performing with a good FICO, and these people pay 8 to 10% for the money for this bridge loan. And so if you're interested in earning 8 to 10% on your money that's safely secure, visit ZINCinvesting.com. Our phone number for that is 559-326-2509. If you're a borrower that wants to borrow money from us and you want to get into the space of real estate and you're saved a few dollars, but you need some help with a loan and you need an experienced lender that can help you on your journey to real estate investing, ZINCFinancial.com. ZINCFinancial.com is our website for borrowers. And also you can give us a call at our office, 559-326-2509. We are a nationwide lender. Well, not quite nationwide. I think we're in 42 states.
Close.
Yeah, close. So hope we can help you. And I just really appreciate your time today, Jonathan.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Thanks for allowing me here today to talk with your group. And hopefully, I really mean this, I added some value to somebody's day.
Absolutely. I mean, I think one of the best things about podcasts is it could connect with one person that we'll never hear from, never know about, could change the way they think about real estate. That's why this medium is so great. So I really appreciate your time, Todd. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Have an amazing afternoon and a great weekend coming up, okay?
Yep, you too. All right, that was Todd Pigott of ZINC, many groups, ZINC Financial. I'm Jonathan Green. We'll see you next episode. I hope you enjoyed that episode of Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing with me, Jonathan Green. And I just want to remind you, and this is always an uncomfortable part, I don't want you to think that I'm begging for you to like, subscribe, follow, do whatever you have to do for the podcast, leave a 5-star review. But if you like the podcast and you think it adds value in the real estate investing sphere, then just do me a personal favor. Like the podcast, follow it, share it when you can with your friends, and be so kind as to write a 5-star review if you believe it deserves a 5-star review up against what else is out there. I would really appreciate it, and I hope you keep listening.